The Iraqi Dinar Today latest news Dinar. We are diving deep into a financial narrative that has captured the attention of global market observers and those who closely follow the economic future of the Republic of Iraq. At the heart of this unfolding story is one of the most significant financial institutions worldwide, J.P. Morgan Chase. Recent reports suggest a potentially deeper engagement by this banking titan within the Iraqi financial infrastructure, a development that is far removed from the usual background noise of market rumor. When an entity of this immense global stature aligns itself with a developing nation's currency system, it marks a substantial shift in the conversation, moving from mere conjecture toward tangible, institutional groundwork. Our focus today is to dissect what this heightened involvement could signify for the Iraqi dinar and the country's overall economic trajectory. We must clearly distinguish between the speculative chatter often found in online communities and the concrete actions undertaken by a Tier 1 global bank. J.P. Morgan Chase operates as a pillar of the international financial architecture. It is not an organization that risks its substantial reputation on volatile ventures or casual financial speculation. Their engagement signals a rigorous, institutional assessment. Consequently, if the prevailing information indicates that J.P. Morgan is collaborating with the Central Bank of Iraq or other domestic financial bodies to fortify and enhance currency frameworks, it strongly suggests that extensive due diligence has already been completed. The credibility of a global bank is arguably its most valuable asset. A major player like this would not commit resources and reputation to a monetary system unless its internal analysis projected a clear and viable pathway toward enhanced stability, compliance with international standards, and eventual, successful integration into the broader global economy. This institutional alignment hints that various crucial components, such as legal contracts, necessary regulatory approvals, and in-depth infrastructure testing, may be at a more advanced stage than is generally understood by the public. For those who have monitored the Iraqi dinar's journey for years, the concept of a modernized financial infrastructure is paramount. It is the essential foundation upon which any eventual currency reform or significant value shift must be meticulously constructed. Without a robust and compliant system, long-term change is simply unachievable. A significant transformation in a currency's value, often termed a reset, is not a spontaneous event or a simple policy announcement. Instead, it is the cumulative outcome of a meticulously planned and highly complex series of coordinated logistical steps. These indispensable steps involve the sophisticated recalibration of the nation's exchange rate mechanisms, the comprehensive upgrading of banking software and communications protocols to ensure seamless interaction with Western financial institutions, and the careful establishment of sufficient liquidity reserves to manage international demand for the currency. The potential inclusion of a powerhouse like J.P. Morgan into this technical overhaul suggests that these vital technical system components are being assembled with an extraordinary degree of precision and under rigorous regulatory oversight. This level of institutional participation offers an international layer of assurance that domestic efforts alone might struggle to achieve, fundamentally changing how the global community views the readiness of the Iraqi financial system for global trade. When we consider the practical reality of currency transformation, it necessitates a deep dive into the painstaking process of facilitating true international convertibility. This is consistently one of the most formidable obstacles for any emerging market currency aspiring to become a freely tradable and respected asset on the world stage. It demands the meticulous harmonization of a nation's local compliance laws with the stringent and non-negotiable global financial standards, particularly those governing anti-money laundering (AML) and counter-terrorism financing (CTF). The active involvement of a major U.S. banking entity often serves as a vital international bridge in this sensitive and complex process. They assist in validating the integrity of the local system, confirming that the new framework is being built on a solid, globally acceptable regulatory foundation. Should this cooperative effort continue to progress smoothly and meet all required benchmarks, it effectively clears a path for the Iraqi dinar to achieve a much stronger and broader international recognition, migrating it away from a restricted status toward a functional currency for cross-border commerce and global trade settlements. Let us now explore what this specific and high-level banking integration means for the concept of liquidity, which is undoubtedly the absolute lifeblood of any functional and stable currency in the modern era. Currently, transferring or exchanging the dinar outside of its immediate region can often be a complex and highly friction-filled process, fraught with difficulty. This inherent friction hinders the currency's global utility. However, if globally recognized banking networks begin to formally and routinely accept and process dinar transactions under the explicit partnership or guidance of a major international clearing bank, that debilitating friction is dramatically reduced. This enhanced liquidity signifies that the currency becomes fundamentally easier to convert, transfer, and exchange across international borders without a reliance on riskier secondary markets or high-commission dealers. This technical capability is a necessary and frequent precursor to a currency gaining value, as both utility and accessibility are non-negotiable prerequisites for any financial asset that seeks to be held in international portfolios or actively used by foreign corporations operating within the region. The second, equally important cornerstone we must discuss is the concept of legitimacy, an element whose importance cannot be overstated in the realm of sovereign finance. The mere presence of a top-tier international bank sends a powerful, unmistakable message to all other financial institutions, central governments, and large-scale institutional investors globally. It acts as an authoritative signal. This involvement signals that the dinar is no longer perceived solely as a fringe or highly speculative currency, relic of a war-torn or transitional economy, but rather as a key component of a financial system that is being taken seriously and methodically reformed by influential global powers. This institutional stamp of approval can often initiate a significant domino effect, prompting other banks that may have previously been hesitant to engage with Iraq to reevaluate their current risk models. The ultimate consequence could be a broader, phased acceptance of the currency within mainstream international exchange markets. Once the twin pillars of liquidity and legitimacy begin to decisively align, observers typically witness a profound shift in what is known as market psychology and overall momentum. Financial markets are driven as much by sentiment and pervasive confidence as they are by pure mathematical fundamentals. Therefore, the perception of increased stability can foster a powerful, self-fulfilling prophecy of rising value. If international demand for the dinar increases because market confidence has demonstrably risen, what once appeared to be a high-risk speculative venture begins to look like a calculated, strategic emerging market position. It is critically important, however, to remain judiciously grounded and to always remember that market psychology can be inherently volatile and fragile. While the involvement of a major, globally recognized bank provides a formidable foundation for increasing confidence, it fundamentally does not guarantee any specific or immediate outcome. Those following this story must maintain the perspective that this momentum is typically a slow building wave, not a sudden, unpredictable tsunami, and it requires sustained governmental progress and geopolitical stability to maintain its forward trajectory. It is imperative to pause here and balance any growing optimism with a strong dose of practical reality, as a final outcome remains potential until it is formally and officially executed. Until there are formal and unequivocal announcements from the Central Bank of Iraq, direct public confirmation from J.P. Morgan regarding the scope of specific currency operations, or indisputable validation from major global banking networks, this entire captivating narrative remains strictly within the realm of potentiality. The undeniable fact that extensive preparatory work is seemingly underway does not equate to a reset being locked in or imminent in its timing. Financial history is replete with major, ambitious projects that were meticulously drafted and planned but ultimately never deployed due to unforeseen regulatory roadblocks, a dramatic shift in global economic conditions, or unexpected geopolitical complications. Markets, by their very nature, are inherently unpredictable, and external factors can derail even the most carefully constructed long-term plans. We must also carefully consider the interwoven geopolitical and economic variables that possess the inherent power to impact the timeline, regardless of the most advanced banking preparations. The current year has presented a unique and dynamic set of conditions where Iraq has achieved a notable, gradual economic stabilization. But the regional environment remains intrinsically complex and subject to rapid change. Oil revenues, while instrumental in rebuilding fiscal balance, are famously volatile and acutely sensitive to fluctuations in global demand. For any substantial currency revaluation to be genuinely sustainable and enduring, the underlying national economy must possess sufficient diversity and resilience to absorb unexpected external shocks. While there has been significant and visible movement toward comprehensively modernizing the country's banking infrastructure and substantially improving regulatory frameworks, these essential reforms are demonstrably ongoing processes. The institutional engagement of international banks suggests that their risk-reward analysis has shifted enough to justify the substantial effort, but it does not equate to the elimination of all underlying political or economic risk. This leads us to the fundamental question of why this moment and what confluence of conditions has made this particular scenario plausible in the current environment. Over the preceding years, there has been a demonstrable and concerted effort by Iraqi governmental authorities to substantially enhance the oversight of financial flows and to systematically curb illicit dollar auctions. These are precisely the kinds of challenging, often politically unpopular, but absolutely necessary reforms required to secure and sustain the participation of the major international banking sector. When these significant internal reforms are synergized with a global investment climate that is showing an increasing appetite for carefully vetted emerging market opportunities, a specific and time-sensitive window is created where ambitious currency frameworks can finally attract serious institutional interest. J.P. Morgan's potential involvement is largely interpreted as the most significant signal yet that Iraq has successfully edged itself into that open window and is actively prepared to bring global key players to the final negotiation table for large-scale financial reform. From a psychological and community perspective, the widely reported news of credible institutional involvement can be a highly complex, double-edged sword for those who have held the dinar through long periods of transition. For years, many have maintained their positions through phases of silence, intense frustration, and frequent cynicism, with a persistent fear that they might have fallen victim to false promises or ongoing financial schemes. The public entrance of a credible institutional actor like this can powerfully restore a sense of hope and inject renewed, tangible energy into the follower community. However, this renewed hope must be managed with extreme caution. While the positive sentiment can influence strategic thinking and encourage longer-term planning, it can also dangerously breed impatience and a rush to action. It is essential that holders avoid allowing the excitement of potential news to completely cloud their strategic judgment, or lead them into making impulsive financial decisions based on unconfirmed, assumed timings or projected dates for an event. This potential shift in expectations naturally impacts how individuals approach planning their financial future around these currency holdings. Moving away from the short-term speculation or a lottery ticket mindset, the substantial presence of major banks actively encourages a much more measured and mature strategic approach. Investors are advised to begin planning a robust, longer-term wealth management strategy that methodically accounts for savings goals, potential conversion timing, and perhaps even a carefully phased diversification of their assets. An increased level of system credibility should encourage a cautious but fundamentally hopeful approach, where one retains a position substantial enough to benefit significantly if a full revaluation or reset occurs, but not so dominant that their entire financial safety net depends wholly on a single, specific outcome. This transition effectively moves the focus of the community conversation from the speculative if to the detailed how, primarily centering on the logistics of wealth management rather than solely the initial currency acquisition. Of course, a vital role is played by those voices urging extreme caution, as they are crucial in maintaining a balanced and sober perspective. Currency transformations are historically known to be delicate, exceptionally complicated, and constantly subject to a wide array of unpredictable forces. Everything from sharp changes in global oil prices to sudden, adverse shifts in international banking regulations. Even when all initial steps appear to progress smoothly, delays are incredibly common in the world of sovereign finance. Strategic partnerships can unexpectedly falter, and external economic pressures, such as unexpected sanctions or major crises in key partner nations, can entirely derail a carefully laid plan. For every widely celebrated success story in the emerging markets, there are numerous cautionary tales where initial optimism faded under the weight of harsh economic realities and unforeseen setbacks. Therefore, a degree of healthy skepticism is not merely advisable. It is a necessary, self-protective defense mechanism against the pervasive, often overblown hype that inevitably surrounds this specific financial topic. If you are currently holding Dinar or closely monitoring this story, this development presents an ideal moment to methodically reevaluate your current strategy without succumbing to either panic or blind faith in a rapid outcome. The wisest strategic approach is to remain consistently informed by rigorously monitoring credible, official financial news sources, rather than relying on unverified hearsay. Watch vigilantly for formal, documented statements from the international banks, the Iraqi monetary authorities, or major global institutions that directly address the matter. It is absolutely crucial to maintain a strong wariness of unsubstantiated rumors, especially those that promise guaranteed, overnight riches or specific, imminent dates for a revaluation event. Any promises of fixed, high exchange rates that lack official backing from verifiable financial institutions should be treated as enormous warning signs that someone is likely attempting to exploit the community's hope. A strategy built upon verifiable evidence is always decisively superior to one driven solely by unpredictable, volatile emotion. Let's discuss precisely what you should be watching for as the most concrete and reliable indicators that a genuine structural transformation is unfolding, moving far beyond mere rumors of high-level banking meetings. First and foremost, look for tangible official documentation such as signed memoranda of understanding, major institutional moves, or finalized contracts explicitly involving the international banks and their Iraqi financial counterparts. Additionally, pay close attention to subtle but significant changes in banking regulations or official monetary policy language that specifically reference new foreign exchange protocols. These bureaucratic details, while often mundane to read, are often the indisputable evidence that the foundational system is being prepared for a material change. When laws are modified or enacted to facilitate complex international transfers, it is a clear sign that the crucial financial plumbing is actively being connected for global usage. A second concrete indicator to monitor is the public and explicit statements made by senior bank officials or high-ranking Iraqi financial authorities that directly confirm cooperation or announce upcoming, verifiable reforms. Third, and perhaps most importantly for market watchers, observe the actual foreign exchange markets for movement, specifically any noticeable, sustained change in legitimate trading volume and movement in the dinar's market value on credible, globally recognized trading platforms. We are not referring to the rates posted on obscure forums or by black market dealers, but rather verifiable, recorded movement recognized by professional global data feeds. Furthermore, look for published reports detailing regulatory compliance milestones, particularly those concerning transparency and the strengthening of anti-money laundering frameworks. When Iraq passes international audits or receives verifiable praise from global oversight bodies for its financial conduct, it signifies a major, concrete step toward full global financial reintegration. At the same time, we must remain constantly vigilant against the red flags that inevitably surface whenever news of this nature breaks into the public sphere. Sudden, intense hype on obscure or unverified social media channels claiming a guaranteed revaluation by the coming weekend is virtually always a strong indicator of a scam or overblown rumor. Offers to reserve conversions or guarantee privileged rates are highly likely to be fraudulent unless they are explicitly backed by verifiable, official documentation and major, recognized institutions. For those actively managing their holdings, security and authentication should be the absolute top priority during any period of heightened speculation. If you hold physical dinar notes, ensure that they are stored safely and that their authenticity is unquestionable. They must possess proper serial numbers, be in clean, verifiable condition, and ideally have been authenticated by a trustworthy authority. If you hold digital or bank-based dinar, ensure your account credentials are secure and that you are strictly following all established banking security best practices. It is also crucial to consider the longer-term implications of a stabilized and fully integrated Iraqi economy. Should a reset or revaluation occur, or even if the currency simply achieves greater stability and tradability, the potential benefits extend far beyond a single conversion profit. This opens the door to significant new opportunities for direct foreign investment, new trade deals, easier remittances, and stronger regional currency partnerships for all individuals and businesses with existing economic connections to Iraq, whether through family, business, or the global diaspora. A stable, internationally recognized dinar offers a new level of financial flexibility and certainty that has been largely absent for decades. This broader perspective shifts the financial focus from the singular goal of a one-time cash out to a far more profound and beneficial scenario of broader economic integration that can create sustained value for all parties involved in Iraq's economic recovery. However, with that long-term potential comes the absolute and non-negotiable need for enduring patience and a clear strategy. A monetary reset, even if it is confirmed to be in progress, may not be immediate, nor is it likely to be a single, sudden event. The processes of global economics and large-scale finance move at a methodical, often frustratingly slow pace. Even once major reforms formally commence, there could be multiple phase stages, including a soft launch, limited convertibility windows, staged exchange rollouts, and perhaps even a gradual, staggered revaluation over a sustained period of time. This means that a significant degree of volatility and uncertainty could lie ahead, both in the currency's actual value and in the ease of access to it. Maintaining a clear, patient, and unemotional mindset is far more valuable than constantly chasing unverified rumors or seeking quick, unsustainable gains that may not materialize in the specific way that speculation predicts. Another pivotal piece of this complex puzzle is the profound potential for the expansion of global financial partnerships. If J.P. Morgan's role is confirmed to be significant and long-term, it has the magnetic ability to attract other major international banks, large-scale institutional investors, and global financial bodies to take a second, closer look at the opportunities within Iraq. This secondary wave of interest could accelerate even broader structural reforms, lead to demonstrably better financial governance, and encourage improved foreign investment rules and much needed enhanced transparency. For the community following the dinar, this secondary interest is highly significant because a diversified, stable Iraqi economy provides the most solid foundation for long-term currency stability. It strategically moves the asset's value proposition from being a purely speculative play to being a tangible, institutional stake in a recovering nation's financial future, which is a far more solid and sustainable basis for intrinsic value. Despite the current swell of optimism and the high-profile involvement of major banking giants, very few people outside of the core financial and governmental spheres possess full, real-time visibility into the intricacies of what is happening behind the curtain of high-level negotiations. Banking talks, complex regulatory compliance checks, and formal international approvals frequently occur quietly and can often take years to fully complete and implement. This is why it is consistently crucial for anyone tracking this story to proactively maintain a healthy, active skepticism and persistently demand concrete evidence and official confirmation. When official news is finally and formally released, the wise approach is to dig deeper, question who is reporting it, what specific institutions are explicitly involved, and what verifiable official documentation exists to support the claim. Always consider the high possibility of unexpected delays, potential reversals of policy, or unforeseen global events that possess the power to disrupt any established timeline. Even if you are tracking this story as a curious observer rather than an investor, the implications are vast. What happens with the dinar could send ripples across regional markets and impact global trade corridors, which is a significant case study in a nation's methodical return to the global financial fold after decades of economic exclusion. Finally, let us consider one last all-important factor: timing. Assuming the absolute best-case scenario that reforms progress seamlessly, global banking networks integrate perfectly, and public confidence returns decisively, even then, the actual conversion or revaluation event may not occur suddenly. There could be phased rollouts, a gradual unlocking of specific funds, or highly targeted windows for exchange based on various criteria. That implies a potential waiting period that could last months or more, during which volatility may remain high and the path forward may appear ambiguous or unclear to the general public. That is precisely why remaining grounded, strategically avoiding panic, and actively resisting the pressure from hype-driven voices promising instant, spectacular riches is essential. Historically, patience and a long-term, evidence-based approach have proven to be the most reliable strategies in these complex currency scenarios. For those who remain appropriately skeptical, that stance is not only understandable but also a necessary safeguard. The history of currency speculation is filled with inflated expectations and broken promises. Your doubt is a valuable mechanism that can protect you from making rushed, emotionally driven decisions. Combining a cautious, evidence-based optimism with healthy skepticism may very well be the wisest strategic stance to maintain as this important story continues to unfold.